Well, it's working on it.
Oh, I've got the upcoming list today. I don't usually get that.
All
Doesn't
right.
say upcoming. I usually have to wait.
Yeah, I think we're live streaming. Maybe one of y'all could check it out, but I believe
Yeah,
we're there.
yeah,
Hello,
that's right.
everybody. It's good to have you here with us tonight. Those of you listening by Power Faith Radio, it's good to have you coming this way, and we appreciate. Well, the Georgia group just texted and said they got 32 more on their way, and she said it's a wonderful thing when you lay donuts out on the table, the flies will come. So I don't just stating that's oh, she did LOL just then. So but it's good to have everybody there, and it's good to have those in the Zoom room. We'll have Terry greet you shortly, but if you're watching this via our YouTube channel, which it's sponsored by Outreach Noah, please, while you're there, hit that subscription button and hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up, and you can share this video with all your social media platform. Also, you can email us. Just send an email to outreachnoah@gmail.com. Terry, would you like to greet everybody in the Zoom? How you doing? Would you? I really thank the Creator for Wednesday nights, because it's Wednesday nights that I can honestly say that I'm retired and I'm able to rest. So it's so here we are. So Terry, take it away.
You know, Scotty, I don't know. We at work have decided that we haven't fully figured out what we think about Wednesday, because for some reason when we hit Wednesday, it still feels like we got a week till Friday.
I know it.
It's like those last 2 days, and then if it's your Saturday to work, it's your Tuesday or whatever.
Yeah.
So we were talking about that today. We're like, oh, it's Wednesday. It's someday. Oh no, we still got a week to go. No. All righty. Greetings, everyone. Welcome again to Outreach Noah. Scotty said we got, of course, Scotty there in the engine room there, trying to keep the ship afloat or flying, whichever way you want to look at it.
Yeah.
As long as you don't hit the wrong button and we all go dark like you did.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
And hold on, here comes Christy. Here comes Christy. All right. And then Ronald and Thomas and Amwella, Bob and Laura. We got Sabra. She's joined us tonight. Welcome. And,
Thank you.
And Warwick and Mr. iPhone is Fred Wells up in Paducah, Kentucky. And we got Christy coming in here for another one of our great Australian sisters. And so tonight what we're going to do is we're going to be on page 74 of the 7 gates of righteous knowledge. We're going to go through the contemplation on the prohibition of blasphemy. It's kind of a short one. It's not that long. And we're going to try to get that covered tonight, which, like I said, it's going to be 74 to 76 is the pages tonight. We're going to be covering. I think Scotty is still getting some things together from some questions and things from last week. How's that going, Scotty?
Going good. If you got time when we get to the end, which I think you may, even if we
I think we will. I've just got a few other things to read from that's kind of bouncing off of what we're talking to tonight, but we may.
I've got just a couple of things I wanted to bring up about chapter 40 in Isaiah.
Okay.
That you brought up, but we'll cover that shortly.
Are you talking about my height again?
Not unless you resemble that remark.
So you ready, Scotty?
I'm ready. I'm ready. All right. We thank everybody who has participated in our Tzedakah time and who has given us names. That's the major thing. I always tell people you don't have to send any kind of funds. I was talking to a lady this week, and she was afraid that she needed to send something. She didn't have anything to send. I said, you don't need to do that. Send us the names. We always have some things here on the desk ready to give to Tzedakah charity for those individuals. And so we have her brother's name on our list again this week. But we're going to jump right into it. And as always, Terry and I always give tzedakah first to our teacher and his wife. That's Pesach and Shira Sherbo. And then Wendy Shepherd is also still on our tzedakah list tonight. And while I'm at Wendy Shepherd, everybody, if you would, as we go through these names, maybe one of them will click with you. Write that name down. And through the week or through the weekend, or go out ready to donate, whatever the amount. If it's $1, that's find you a charity box. And when you put that money in that charity box, mention that person's name in your mind and just do it for their merit, their benefit. So as we go on, while we're at Wendy Shepherd, Chrissy, have you heard anything lately about Wendy?
No, not since the last update, but I will double check with that before Saturday. So Ron can let you know. Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing will have changed. Otherwise, they would have let me know. So everything's the same.
Okay. Well, we're going to continue to give tzedakah for Wendy Shepherd. Also, William and Tina Lyons is on our tzedakah list tonight. Also, Clifford Hoole. Clifford Hoole is on our tzedakah list tonight. Nadine Akins. Nadine Akins is in our tzedakah list tonight. And, of course, somebody always sends in $1 a piece for Amuela. This is your dollar, Amuela, going into the tzedakah tonight. And also send in one for Veronica Port. She said she didn't know she'd get to make it tonight, and that might be her texting, I'm not for sure. But Veronica Port, and also they include Thomas Schaus with that gift. Also, Warwick Marshall, did he fall out again? He said he didn't know if he was going to get to stay. It was his computer was acting up. So Warwick Marshall. Also, where am I here? Kathleen Suits. Terry, have you heard anything lately on Kathleen?
No, I haven't talked with Ronnie this week. He's kind of the same boat with you. He's trying to retire.
Okay. Okay.
He's 77, so he's trying to retire.
Yeah, I understand exactly. We're going to keep his lovely wife on the list. Also, Ronald Dickman. Ronald, we've got you on our list. Now, I don't know, Ronald, whether I should ask you how you're doing or ask Chrissy to tell us the truth. So Chrissy says ask her. So while I'm giving this tzedakah for Ronald, Chrissy, how is Ronald doing?
So far, the girls and I are happy with his maintenance program, and but there will be in the near future, there's no necessity to take him off the prayer list. But I appreciate you consulting me, Scotty, and that's the correct thing to do. Don't listen to him. You come straight to the source, okay?
Okay, I've got the note on here. Ronald Dickman, check with Chrissy. So I've got that on the list here. So, okay, we just gave tzedakah for Ronald, and as Chrissy said, he's going to be on it for a while.
Yes, and he comes. I've got to put a plug in for Ronald, and because he won't blow his own trumpet. But he comes to, we have a WhatsApp group called Noah's Daughters. And so we asked Ronald to come to that because of first of all, his technical experience, but he has been officially adopted as our legal brother.
Okay.
So, and if we want to talk about anything strictly female, he has to leave the room or yes.
Okay. Ronald, there are people watching you. So, all right. Thank you so much, Chrissy, for giving us that update. I could see the whole time you were saying he was just going, so anyway, all right. So we're giving Thanksgiving tzedakah for Wendell and Mary Parsons tonight. And then also, if I can, I'm going to get this right. I've got the last name correctly, Sandy. I got that correctly. So Sabra or Sabra, which one is it?
Sabra, probably.
Okay, that's the one we're giving tzedakah for tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, all right. And then, let me get on down here. And then, I just wrote this down and I cannot remember it. Alan. We're giving tzedakah for Alan tonight. And you want to tell the background there,
It's
Terry?
the father of one of my wife's coworkers, young girl. Her father has second stage. Just found out this week that he has second stage prostate cancer,
Okay.
and he's fixing to go in for treatment. So she asked us to keep him in mind.
All right. Well, we're going to keep them on the tzedakah list for a while then. And then also our blessed memory tzedakah tonight. I don't know if any of you saw, but Amuela's mother left this walk of life on into the next. And Doreen Bassinet. Did I get that right, Amuela? No. I was close one night, Amuela. But
Bassinet.
Okay, thank you.
Bassinet.
Okay, now, I had hooked on phonics, so it's ironic that the person who had hooked on phonics in this room is reading names that I can't spell on the paper. So anyway, I'm doing my best. So we're giving blessed memory tzedakah for your mother tonight, Amuela, for her merit, and that it would be counted for her tzedakah, her merit. So would y'all help us pray tonight? Hear our voice, Adonai, our God, Father of mercy. Have compassion on us and accept our prayers with compassion and favor. For you are a God who hears prayers and supplications. Our King, do not send us away empty-handed. Favor us and answer us and listen to our prayers. Amen. All right, Terry, are you about ready? I'm going to put you over on speaker view.
I'm about ready. I need to apologize to Fred because I have one of those senior moments where one thing's up here, but another thing comes out here, which sometimes gets me in trouble. But it's Fred Rawls, not Fred Wells.
You're giving him kin to Bob, so I don't know.
I'm getting I've got them mixed up there. You know, one. Right. You sit there, you know what you're about to say, but then something else. Where'd that come from? I noticed as my beard starts getting a little, change more colors, that happens more often.
So Terry, real quick before you start, there is the couple in Saudi. Are you from? They're asking if you're from Saudi Daisy, and I text yes.
Yeah, my wife and I moved to Saudi Daisy here about 3 years ago from up the road in Cleveland, Bradley County.
They were listening a couple weeks ago. They're glad to be here again tonight. They enjoy your teaching, and their last name is Benson. So you may be getting a friend request on Facebook.
So are they from Saudi as well?
They're let's see. Yes, they're in Saudi Daisy. They've lived there for about 6 months.
Oh, okay. I'm over toward Lakeside on the side of Saudi, close to the lake.
We'll write this down. Benson. Okay. All right, Terry. I'm going to put you on speaker view, and I'm going to mute myself and step on back.
All righty. Again, greetings, everyone. As we said, we probably might get into a few things at the end of this. It's not going to be that long tonight. We're going to get into the prohibition of blasphemy, the contemplation of prohibition of blasphemy, and the power of human speech a little bit here. Scotty's, I think he's been making a list, and he's been sending me a few notes a little here and there, but we're getting something together. Scotty, we're going to try to do that next week. The questions, most of the questions we got from last week. It takes a little time for Scotty to get it all together. And
actually, Terry, if I can say this, I actually got a couple of different avenues. I went back on some of the comments and things, and I formulated some questions from those comments. So
okay. That's cool.
I think like we did last time, we'll get together and I'm retired, so I got plenty of time. So, but we'll get together and so we can discuss these, and it's going to cover over the past 3 or 4 weeks of discussions. But
Okay, that sounds good.
but anyway, okay.
Well, you know, Scotty's the only retired person I know that works 9 days a week. If you knew how much he worked, you would understand that. All righty. We're going to be on page 74, the 7 gates of righteous knowledge, spiritual knowledge and faith for the righteous Gentile. And we just finished with idolatry, which again, we'll probably be speaking some more about that next week, Hashem willing. Rabbi Weiner here puts, we kind of read a little bit last week, but I wanted to start over. It is a short section. It says the prohibition of blasphemy. Logically, this would be an extension of the prohibition of idolatry. It's an extension of the prohibition of idolatry. Idolatry is separation from God and denial of his sovereignty, and there is no greater denial of his sovereignty than blaspheming God. And I wanted to read from Rabbi Cowen's book, the Theory and the Practice of the Universal Ethics, the Noahide Laws, on blasphemy. Just one little paragraph right here on that, talking about how that there is no greater denial of his sovereignty than blasphemy. Rabbi Cowen says, blasphemy, the prohibition of which forms the first topic in what he's covering here, in what he calls the reverence for God, is a deeper transgression than idolatry. Blasphemy is a deeper transgression than idol worship. For while the idolater adds a deity, the blasphemer attacks God himself. Blasphemy is the verbal act of one who knows God yet rebels and curses him. The blasphemer attacks God himself, and it is a verbal act of the one who knows God yet rebels against him. That's why it makes it worse. Where an idolater can be an idolater but not know God. You know, majority of us that we've had, some idolatry stuff in our past, we didn't know. But once you become to know the Creator and know the God of Israel, blasphemy, when you curse the one you know, it takes you to a deeper transgression than just replacing his essence with something from the physical realm or the spiritual realm. Rabbi Weiner says, why then is this a separate commandment? The lesson this teaches is the extraordinary power of human speech. The power of human speech. The lesson this teaches is the extraordinary power of human speech. There is within the Jewish world, this is a very, 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 very popular book. I haven't gotten deep into it before, but it covers the writings. It's a gathering and a contemplation of the writings of the rabbi called the Chafetz Chaim. He was the master on proper speech. Very, 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 very deep teacher on proper speech. And on the introduction, the two rabbis that put this together wrote, the power we wield when we speak is far beyond what we can perceive. And then they use just kind of a modern example. He says, imagine going to an automatic teller machine at your local bank and inserting your ATM card and making a simple transaction only to be told upon exiting that you had actually transferred $17 billion from the treasury of one country to another and left a devastating bankruptcy in its wake. We think we are only exchanging a few words when in fact we're moving worlds with our speech. And so with the blasphemer, it cuts real deep if we blaspheme God, if we curse God. But Rabbi Weiner brings in this book here an interesting aspect of blasphemy that we may not have thought about. Mankind is distinguished from all other worldly creations, not only in his power of intellect and choice, but also in his power of speech. A person should not think the words that I speak are of no consequence. You know, we've all heard the old saying, you know, sticks and stones might break my bones, but words, that's a lie. Our words are very powerful. He says, for speech is the special gift that God bestows upon mankind, and it should be used only for the good and not for evil. In Genesis, when the Creator told Adam and Eve to be fruitful and to multiply, this is the very first place in the Torah where the Creator speaks to his creation. He opens up a dialogue with man. He speaks to them. And the sages of Israel teaches this opens up the dialogue, a conversation with a specific part of his creation, mankind. And so therefore speech is very special, because he only gives it to one aspect of his creation, and that is man. And we should hopefully use it for good and not for evil. And that's one of those things that's harder said than done. The ultimate ingratitude one can exhibit in using his power of speech is to curse the one who gave him the gift. So this is the power of blasphemy. God gave you speech and you use the very gift. And if you curse him, you're using that gift. You're trying to do harm toward him with your words. And he's the one that gave you the gift. That is why, you know, Rabbi Cowen, where he's talking about it's the deeper transgression between, you know, the two commandments that mankind has of the 7 that he gave us, but, you know, 2 between us and God, and the rest is really for mankind and our inhabitants of inhabiting the world. The second one, with the use of our words, can cause more harm toward us. It's, if I remember right, there's one passage that says that you'll bear your sin. You'll bear it. You know, you can receive forgiveness, but there's going to be a bearing of your sin. It says, more than that, every person was created in the image of God. And cursing or denigrating another person includes a measure of cursing and denigrating the image of God in that person. Because remember, we've always talked about how we treat someone, whether good or bad. We are treating the image of God within that person. And so not only with just our actions, with our words, we can blaspheme God through blaspheming the image of him in the creation that he has made, another person. The lesson follows from the prohibition of blasphemy. Don't curse another person. Since all the people are created in God's image, cursing anyone is similar to, it's a lower form of blasphemy. Now, this story, if y'all read on, you might have found it very interesting. This story that I'm about to read, I learned it years and years ago when I was in my own studies with my first rabbi I was learning from back in around 2010 and 11. And it's very, very interesting. When I first learned this, it's got a very powerful lesson in this story. So please listen on as we go through this. Once Rabbi Eleazar, the son of Rabbi Shimon, was coming from Migdal Gedor, from the house of his teacher. He chanced to meet an exceedingly ugly man who greeted him, "Peace be upon you, my master." Rabbi Eleazar did not return his greeting, but instead said to him, "How ugly this person is. Are all the people of your city as ugly as you?" "I do not know," he said, "but go to the craftsman who made me. Say to you, and say, I don't know, but go to the craftsman who made me and say to him, how ugly is the vessel in which you have made." Realizing that he had done wrong, Rabbi Eleazar dismounted from his donkey and prostrated himself before the man and said to him, "You are right, forgive me." But the man replied, "I will not forgive you until you go to the craftsman who made me and say to him, how ugly is this vessel that you have made." Rabbi Eleazar kept on walking after him until he reached the city, and the residents of the city came to greet the great Rabbi Eleazar, saying, "Peace be upon you, O teacher, O master." The man said to them, "Whom are you calling master?" They answered, "The person walking behind you." He said to them, "If this is a master, may there not be any more like him in Israel." "Why?" asked the people. The man replied, "Such and such he has done to me." "Nevertheless, forgive him," they said, "for if he is a man who is great learned of Torah." "For your sake, I will forgive him," said the man, "but only if he does not act this way anymore." Soon after this, Rabbi Eleazar entered the study hall and taught, "A person should always be pliant as a reed, and let him never be hard as a cedar." So can you imagine? You're in a conversation with someone, or let's say not even directly to them. What if you're talking about someone and they find out that you've been talking about them and belittling that person? And what if that person come up to you and said, maybe you need to go to the one who made me and make that complaint? That's powerful. That's a powerful lesson to know that, we've all somewhere in the past, we've made fun of someone else, whether it's their race, how they're made, short, tall, skinny, Especially when you're teenagers and you're in school, everybody has, the ones they pick on because they're different. But yet, majority of us wasn't raised in a home that my mom and dad didn't, they taught us good ethics and morals. But if I'd ever been told, maybe you need to go talk to God, he made them that way. That kind of opens up a lot of things there. What do you think, Scotty? Now, this made me remember a verse that I've read in another book on the study of deceit from the Hafiz Chaim. It opens up with this passage. It's in Psalms. Psalms 34. Make sure I got that. Yeah, Psalms 34, 13 and 14. King David writes, says, who is the man who desires life, loves days that he may see good? If this is a desire of yours, if you desire life, if you want to see days of good, then King David says next, he says, keep your tongue from evil and your lips from deceitful speech. Rabbi Hirsch writes on his commentary on verse 14, he says, it is significant that the instruction in the practical application of the fear of God begins with the behest that we exercise control over our words. That a practical application in fearing God begins with controlling our words. And as we shall see, even over our thoughts, for speech and thought are activities which we constantly practice. Hence, there is no better task that we can set for ourselves, leading to the fear of God, and to be done in the fear of God, than to resolve tactically and before him alone never to speak ill of one's fellow man. The fulfillment of this one task requires constant self-observation and affords a unique opportunity for the practice in attaining the control over oneself, which is essential basis of all God-fearing moral endeavors. So as we contemplate the prohibition of blasphemy, there's two, I kind of see there's two kind of aspects to this. One, blasphemy itself is only done through someone who knows the Creator, who already knows the God of Israel. And then a second level of blasphemy is the cursing and the belittling of the human that bears the Creator's image. You ready, Scotty? I told you this would be a short one. Any comments or questions on this topic?
I was just texting somebody when you come over to me and finish. Let me go over here and find their so mankind is the only, you had talked about the only thing that the Creator spoke to in a conversational way. So can you because most of the people think that the Creator spoke to everything that he created.
He spoke things into creation.
Yeah.
But he actually, according to the sages, man is the only one he actually engaged in conversation.
Right.
When he told Adam and Eve to be fruitful and to multiply, this was a verbal engagement between them and him.
Okay. That was one of them. The other one is the power of speech.
We could probably go 6-7 weeks probably just on that subject.
Yeah.
Because I said, the Chafetz Chaim has, I mean, this is a daily study right there, and you can take one day and probably spend just time on it.
So in looking at the power of speech, which I feel we need to learn how to control, it can be positive and it can be negative on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We can, so cover that a little bit. You know what I'm talking about? You know, because sometimes we degrade ourselves, and I'm going to just say it like we claim things on ourselves.
Oh, you know how sometimes, you get angry at yourself and you call yourself ignorant.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of doing that. I think most of us all, we will do something stupid and we're like, you idiot, what'd you do?
Yeah.
that for?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think that happens about once a day. We may not. But that's one of the things. It takes time, like Rabbi Hirsch says, it takes practice in overcoming this. How did he put it? Where he says the fulfillment of this one task requires a constant self-observation and affords a unique opportunity for the practice in attaining the control over oneself. See, if we want to go back again, it never ends. Genesis chapter 4:7, where the Creator tells Cain, improve yourself. If you improve yourself, you'll be forgiven. Improving oneself is a lifelong, you'll never reach that goal where you're fully improved. It's a lifelong process, because we are always constantly learning new things that we need to work on. And so, of course, within the Jewish realm and in the Hebrew, that's called musar, or discipline, as it's mentioned in Psalms. The word discipline, when you read it, not Psalms, but Proverbs, when you read the word discipline in the Proverbs, the Hebrew there is musar, is you're learning to discipline yourself. And that's a big subject, because we don't really as the the non-Jewish peoples of the world, we get a lot tied up in religious things a lot of times, and that's one of the things that when we're learning about the 7 laws, there is that religious aspect about them, but it's not what the life is all about. It's about living ethical and moral between God and man. But we always are looking at the 7 laws and their subcategories, and yes, that's important, and we're supposed to. That's something that should be a major study for us. But we tend to forget about the musar, the self-discipline, Yeah. And hopefully we will, have some, classes on that, because right here, this is my go-to book, and it's one that Rabbi Shulman and some other rabbis who've recommended. Not everything is for us, but there's a lot of it in here that is. This is my book when I'm studying Musar it's called Orchis Sadikim, A Treasure for Life. The commentary and the insights of the classic guide on character perfection. And it's each chapter is like what they call a gate in here. And so you have the gates of haughtiness, humility, shame, arrogance, love, hatred, mercy, cruelty. I mean, this is, silence, truth, flattery. when I was going through my bout of anger, we talked about, here, about 6 months or a year ago, when I was going through my bout with some anger that I never knew existed within me. It reached some very high levels. And so by studying the gate of anger in this book, it helped me overcome that. It took some time. And I learned some things. Anger will damage you, just like words, because anger, a lot of times you are speaking words of anger. Fits of anger is you're speaking things, and anger damages the body. Those words that are coming out of your mouth and anger is damaging your body. Literally, it does. It damages your bowel system, your intestines. And I went through that. I didn't know that, and I was studying it, and I was learning about that. And not to say everybody should get angry so they can learn some hard things, but we do need these studies on self-disciplines, because since we are called to be called to be righteous, the nations are called to be righteous, and with ethics and morals.
Yeah.
Among fellow human beings. And that's what our main purpose in life is to live as an ethical and moral being. And that started in Genesis 2:17 or 16:17. Right after he started engaging in conversation, then he started working on their morality, or their morality and their ethics. Go ahead, Scotty.
So in the paragraph 3 of the 7 gates of righteousness, right after you started this, the prohibition of blasphemy,
Okay.
and I guess it's 3, maybe it's 2, depending on where
Where's
you're
it
at.
start at?
A person should not think.
Right.
Okay. This next area here, the words that I speak are of no consequence.
Yeah, we should not think that what we do, we should never think that what we say doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, and it affects everything around us.
Right.
That's how I feel. It affects everything around us. It also, one of the things I was pointing at a few minutes ago, and I just finished this text to this gentleman who's texting me, is that our speech can affect our minds to where we ourselves, I'm going to speak to myself, and like you said, that the anger causes us to say things, but our speech can cause us to limit ourselves, and we ourselves are a creation of the Creator, and so we're limiting ourselves, our full potential abilities.
Right.
So that's just one of the
like
things.
I said, I find it interesting that this chapter is this section of this chapter is as short as it was, but I can understand because each one of these are complete studies on their own. The contemplation of idolatry, the contemplation of blasphemy. Now we're going to be moving. What is the next one here? The contemplation of the prohibition of murder. Every one of these are very deep, long-term studies in themselves. Matter of fact, we're with Bob and Ronald and Sabra and Chris, who's not here tonight with us. We've started the Divine Code, and we're going through it slowly. Sometimes, we spend sometimes, the night talking on 1 or 2 sentences sometimes, or just a paragraph, and we're going to be getting into those prohibitions, here sometime pretty soon. Well, no, not pretty soon. I'm not going to say that. Here sometime. It'd be better to say it that way, Bob. But each one of these, and this book is really good because it hits highlights. It's really this book hits some highlights of areas that all of our life, touches within our observance of God's commandments that He's gave us of the nations to observe. And so, but yeah, a lot can be said just on speech toward our Creator and toward man.
All right. I want to take us into, just for a few minutes, into Isaiah 40.
Hold on.
Last week you mentioned this text in Isaiah 40, and I just want to cover a couple of points that I had some conversations since then with some people, and I had to kind of reiterate this.
Can I say something first?
Yes.
I know one of the questions we got was, what was I reading from? I was reading the passage from Isaiah from the Milstein edition of the prophets, the book of Isaiah from Art Scroll Publications, which is one of the largest English translations for the English speaking Jews. It's got one side of the page is English, one side is Hebrew. It's got Hebrew, and it's also got some Rashi text, which I won't get into that. But that's what I was reading from. So it's a translation for English translation for English speaking Jewish people, and it's a lot of it is straight literal. I've got the interlinear, and it's just, of course, they say the English one is not perfect even in this translation, because English is one thing. It is one of, in my opinion, as an English speaking person learning the Hebrew stuff, it's one of the worst languages to try to translate Hebrew into. It's just a difficult language to get the essence of what's coming out of the Hebrew. But yes, the Art Scroll, prophet Isaiah.
Okay. I want to go down to the 18th verse.
Okay.
And so,
hold on, I gotta go back a page. All right.
So through some of my conversations with some people since last Wednesday night, I have noticed something in this that brings it to a personal thing. A lot of people think, well, those people over there think this, those people. So this brings it to a personal, and it says, now I'm reading from the Chabad.org, and Isaiah 40 and 18. And to whom do you compare God? It makes it a personal. Okay, no, I'm not talking to a congregation. I'm not talking to a community. He's talking to whom do you compare God, and what likeness do you arrange for him? If I'm reading that, so I want to read a well-known Western translation. I don't do this often, but I want to read what it says. This is the English Western translation, but it's almost the same. It says, "To whom then will ye liken God?" So my question is, do we oftentimes, as people, as mankind, as a personal person, just I'm trying to get this so we can see it each one, does our minds constantly focus on trying to compare God to something? And you know what I'm talking about?
Well, over here, what you're saying here is what the sage Malbing wrote. He has no image or likeness whatsoever. He is pure, exalted spirituality. No physical being can be compared to him or can symbolize him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one who likes all kinds of forms of music. Of course, one of them is my good classical and traditional country. And because of the nature of our society, we live here in the United States, especially here in the South, there's a lot of country songs written from, they'll have things in there that kind of reflect the teachings of the Western teachings of the religion. And so there's this one song, and you get caught up in it, and before you know it, you've just sung this part of the song is not correct. You almost knock on wood real quick.
Yeah.
And I've caught myself and I don't remember exactly which song it is, but it's talking about, it uses the word, the man upstairs. That's an idolatrous statement.
Yeah.
Referring to God. One, he says he's not a man. Two, I don't know if that would be upstairs. Which way's up when you're in space? and if you're outside of space and time and creation, there is no up. So, but that's just a funny point on that. But the aspect of it's a common statement in referring to God as the man upstairs. And technically that's an idolatrous thought because it's an image that is symbolizing God in your mind that there's a man up there.
Yeah.
So it's just a simple, analogy.
Yes. I just find it interesting because after I saw this when I was talking to a few people, I've brought up to some of my acquaintances this week when I would run into them or they would call me and see what's going on, blah, blah, blah. I would say, so what do you compare God to? What is he to you? What likeness do you arrange for him? What likeness do you create for him? And I don't know, it just seems like this is a problem with society. I'm just, because when I even ask them, they begin to answer me. Well, he's got this likeness or he's got this form, but then it's going against the Torah itself, that there is no form, there is no likeness there. So anyway, that just caught me this week, and I wanted to bring that out this night.
It's hard to be honest with you because of the society we've been raised in, and people in other societies, say in the Indian, Hindu, or other large religious bodies that's on the earth, and people may be coming out of that and coming to the God of Israel. It is one of those difficult things to overcome. Is it's almost like a natural tendency to want to create God in some form of image that we could grasp.
Yeah.
Fred's got his hands raised.
Okay, let me get back over here because I was reading something. Go ahead, Fred.
So what do you do with the statement, Mother Nature?
I did a little bit of study on that
for years.
Yeah.
Mother Nature. It says, they reflect the weather. Mother Nature done this, and Mother Nature, blah, blah, blah. So I just want to start up a little bit. So what do you think about the term?
I hadn't thought about that one in a while. I did look into in the several years ago. I was looking into that, but I hadn't got back into that. That's a good one. I don't think it's a correct one if I remember right. I mean, I know where it kind of comes from because we come from the earth, and so you see earth like as a mother in a way. But Mother Nature, I think, it's like I said, it's been a while since I've studied. I'm thinking that's going to come from
lack of
the more.
I know that.
Yeah,
the shamans are more of a male dominant, but still, when people talk about the weather, we know that when you read Torah, we know where the weather comes from. We tell us in Job, we tell us in many places, but it makes him sound feminine. This is Mother Nature's called the storm, and Mother Nature's called the weather. Mother Nature, kind of like, it sounds like it's the God making the God in a different image, like like even Mother Mary,
right,
which is idolatry, but they make her to be like the mother of God. So when they talk to me, it could be coming from Catholicism, thinking like that this is Mother Nature. Well, that could be talking about Mary.
Well, it too could go back further.
My opinion.
it could go back. It could go back further than that. And like I said, I have to look into it because since I've been looking into my Scottish heritage and looking at the Druids and the Celts, a lot of their religion dealt around nature itself, not in that it was being worshipped. That's what's interesting. Not that they worshipped it, but in my reading from where my viewpoint and my stance in life is at this point, as I'm studying my Scottish and ancestry with the Druids and the Celts, it's almost as if they created these gods from nature so they could have something that, like we were saying, an image of God. They were kind of personifying and trying to understand how nature worked. And by attaching a being to this aspect of nature and that aspect of nature, I guess made sense to their minds, and this developed. But I found out, like, I know a guy who's Irish, who was actually a Celtic witch, and he was sharing some of this stuff with me that he goes, we don't worship these gods. They're there, but we don't worship them. But they're part of, the natural realm. So I was listening to him. It's very interesting, from just an educational point of trying to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But this stems into, of course, again, these are coming from the people who don't know the God of Israel. We're talking about the Celtics and the Druids from 2,000 and 3,000 years ago.
Yeah, but it makes us as a Noahide to think about when you're going to say that. Why are you saying that? Why are you calling nature mother versus?
No, I agree with you. If I remember right, I think it's an idolatrous statement.
So that's why every time I think about that now, I mean, I don't say anymore, but I'm just saying when I hear that thought, it had to come from somewhere because it's always the beginning somewhere. So with a mother, you gotta have a father. So with it, are you thinking that this the weather, or what they call Mother Nature, is married or coupled with something or someone, creation, creator, blah, blah, blah. And that might have been the origin.
Right. I made me a note to look back into that.
I'm also from your side of ancestry. I also come from the Northern Europe and the Celtic, the Scottish, the Celt. So, matter of fact, I'm more proportionate Scottish. And yes, the Druids, which will get a lot of our Christmas holidays and blah, blah, blah. And, Halloween, it all stems from a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I made me a note to go back and look into the term Mother Nature again. I had done it, but it's been like maybe 15 years ago or so. Then, mm-hmm. I've kind of drifted away from that because I got away from, like you, I've tried to replace the term Mother Nature because I don't think it's a good statement. It's something that we have to work on getting rid of.
Right, because
what I'm saying, getting rid of out of our own personal life is,
right. I mean, I don't say it anymore, but when I think about that, there's enough Torah that I know now that shows where the weather comes from, like in the book of Job, sometimes even in the Torah, where Hashem specifically says, there's where these things come from: the wind, the rain, the hail.
Well, Genesis chapter 9 with the rainbow, he says he places the cloud
to remember.
He says he says when I have placed the cloud.
Right.
Because he tells us that he puts
correct. Yeah, and I had a Noahide correct me one time about why it's there, and you don't think about it. You look at it because it comes after the rain, but no, he says in the Torah that he set that in there to remind us why it is there. And what happened before that? Before the flood, and then this is after the flood. So it says to remind us as Noahide that it means that Hashem is probably angry about something, and he's reminding us that this is what happened before. So,
Yeah, that's another good subject as well.
Bob, Bob takes something here that's Bob. I'd like you to unmute and bring that out if you would. That's a great thought right there.
Well, if you're talking about nature, like we have nature all around us, that's one thing. But if we're personifying powers, giving them sort of independent activity in that, then that goes into idolatry. If we're not worshiping it, then that would be seeing it as a partner with God.
Right.
Sort of like a
Shitteth.
bank teller. Yeah, sort of like a bank teller. If we view the bank teller as having independent power, even if we don't worship the bank teller, we're still making an error.
Mhm.
And to be righteous, we really need to not have that.
No, I agree.
Yeah. But to see nature, that's if there's things in nature that these Celtic priests are noticing, there might be some value in that, but you really got to be careful how to interact with it.
No, I agree with you. It's just, growing up, you always heard of pagans being, worshiping all these. And I'm not saying some of them did. Some did. I mean, because we got, the generation of Enosh that laid the foundation for all of that. Some did worship these idols, did worship the nation, did worship these forces. What I'm finding, what's interesting is not everything in the pagan world that had a god attached to it was worshiped. I never knew that. I thought it was an interesting thing that I had learned.
Yeah. All right. Well, Terry, it's 9:00.
You got any more you want to discuss on verse 18?
No, there's one more on verse 20. Chabad says it. Now, this is just after verse 19. It's talking about the graven images. The craftsman has, made it of gold and silver and all this gorgeous stuff that would catch your eyes. But then it also talks about he who is accustomed to select. And in the art scroll, it actually says, let me bring it back up here. It actually says the poor man makes a selection. So everybody falls under the category of making idols or giving powers to something.
Or symbolizing God from in some format, because like it says, he has no image nor likeness. We have not shown any form, anything whatsoever, but
Right.
Yet we take physical beings to compare him and to symbolize him.
If we could ever break from that, if we could ever break from that ideology of having to have a form for the creator, all I can say is, wow, what would that end up being? Because I'm gonna give a little testimonial here. For y'all know my background, and I am journeying. I'm taking a walk, noticing that God is in everything, and seeing the absolute power of God. We were talking, this has been years ago, about looking at a leaf under a microscope.
Well, that goes back, don't it?
That goes back. And, we first look at the leaf and all we see is the green or, and things of that nature. Then we turn naked eye, we just turn over, we see the veins and the things that's in the leaf. And then as we go from to a magnifying glass, we see tiny hairs on the leaf and little more different veins. Then we go under a microscope, and then we go to a electron microscope, and we get so close we see the intricate thing. And in looking at that leaf has no power. It's the creator who is actually, he's behind all that. He's not just behind it. It is him. It is his hand. It is his handiwork. It is his creation. every second, it's the glory of the Creator. And then
The glory of the Creator fills the earth.
fills the earth. And as I leave the house in the mornings, I'm always getting more. The other day I come in, I was so tired. I'm just going to be honest, I was so tired as I was going across the front yard, coming in the house. I was right at the verge of tears. I was just so tired. And I heard the birds singing. And I just had to stop and thank the Creator for at a time like this, the birds were singing to me. And that just gave me a complete, I can make it at this. I can do this. So I just stood out in the front yard till, I don't remember whether it was my wife or my daughter opened the front door to see where I went. But I mean, I just, he is in everything. Even when I say he, even the word he.
Well, the sages teaches us that the Torah is written in the language of man. So we can understand. He writes it in. He had Moses write this down in the language of mankind, and the Torah was translated in the 70 languages, so that every language of man can read the basic tenets of the Torah and have a basic understanding. But he had to write it in our language. It's just like, this is translated into English so I can understand it. So the Creator had to translate into our language of humankind, his Torah, so that we could understand it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Hey, Terry, can I just ask you something there? Original language is in Hebrew. So what happened to the people that went out into the other countries? Wouldn't that be transcribed? Someone would transcribe that Hebrew into their own language, right?
All languages. I got to sit in a meeting one time with a linguist that was speaking, and he basically showed that all languages has a root of Hebrew in that language. Every language.
So you'd have to know the Hebrew language. Some guy out there would know the Hebrew language. He would subscribe that language,
right,
from Hebrew into their language.
Right. And y'all that know Andrew, he's very, very smart man. Him and Jacob has sat underneath their rabbi for 20-something years. And we were talking about this very subject the other day, and we were talking about the Tower of Babel, what actually happened, and what his teacher, his Jewish teacher taught him, is that when it says he confused the languages, is that since the one language it was Hebrew, it's the mother tongue of creation. It's what God used Hebrew to create with. He confused the ears of people to not be able to understand the Hebrew connection in all of our languages. Like if you hear a person from China speak, or a person from Mexico speak, there are some aspects of the Hebrew language that form that language that our natural ear can't pick it up, and that's why we can't understand them. And that's what he was telling us. He says he confused the sounds of the Hebrew into 70 languages. And really interesting conversation we had.
So since you brought this into the mix, we're not going to come to a close right now. Since you brought this into the mix, I was I think we discussed this one time before, and I just want to reiterate this, if not just for me, but the Hebrew language stayed strong. Abraham was not working on the tower, correct? Was Abraham alive during that time? Oh, that's the y'all thinking now.
Actually, I've got a very interesting book over here written by Jim Long. It talks about that. Talks about the tower, and it's been a while.
Well, only the people.
I'm thinking he was. I know his.
Only the people who were working on the tower,
mm-hmm.
their language was confounded. or confused. But there were people who still were connected to the Creator who were not working on that tower.
Yeah, that wasn't.
And the language stayed true.
Right.
And we have a connection with them today.
Yes.
And they are the Jewish people.
The Jewish people, what we call the Jewish people today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fred was talking about the original Hebrew language is pictographic. Yes. A lot of your languages were hieroglyphical. Matter of fact, the linguist that meeting I went to years ago was talking about how the Chinese language, the Mandarin language, the letters and how they're formed, that each one of the things represents something. And he just gave this example. He said in I think it's Mandarin or Chinese, however you want to put it, the symbol of a man and a symbol of a woman and a symbol of a tree is brought together for the Chinese word for sin.
Wow.
It may be very interesting wanting to learn the Chinese and the Japanese languages because they're hieroglyphical languages. And if I'm understanding right, the Hebrew, I believe, is somewhat hieroglyphical too in its ways. You got to get deep into that, which I don't get all that deep, but I have some. And there are some, like the essence of the letter bait, the second letter, then, the letter bait. Well, bait in Hebrew is house. Well, bait has a roof, a wall, and a floor in the letter. And so there's a lot of things in there as well that, that I had learned in my studies in the past. So yes, there a lot of it's, I guess, pictograph or like saying they're like pictures put together to symbolize something.
I saw Bob. Oh, I'm sorry, Terry. Was it?
No, go
I
ahead.
saw Bob flipping through a book there. Bob, was you fixing to elaborate on something there?
I was looking for a chart that showed when the different people were there, but it wasn't in the book that I remembered it being in. So, no, concerning language though, there is the higher, sort of a higher Hebrew and a more regular Hebrew, and I guess it's understood that Moses wrote in the higher Hebrew. I suppose it's possible that Abraham may have used the pictograms of the Kanadi form of Hebrew, possibly. I don't know. But I know that the Orthodox rabbis they get kind of picky about saying that the block letters is the way that the Hebrew is the old one. But I know that there are other ideas also. So I'm not gonna. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for getting confused.
No, that's just as clear as it was before you started talking, Bob. I'm just kidding, Bob. Listen, y'all are so higher than I love it when y'all talk. So, all right, Terry, I'm going to bring us to a close.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I think so, because I've got it's dark 30 here in East Tennessee, and I've got to go lock my gates. So thank you all so much for coming and spending some time with us, especially those of you that are in the Zoom room, and we appreciate it so much. And thank you, Chrissy, for giving us the updates on Ronald and keeping us updated on him and all the others. And remember to seek out Amuela's mother's name this week and give tzedakah, give charity for her merit, and any of the others that you want to do that for, we greatly appreciate that. Those of you listening on Power Faith Radio, we thank you so much. The Georgia group ended up having 52 tonight. So they really enjoyed it, and so
Gotti, we got to get down there and have some donuts with them.
We got to get down there and have some donuts with them, and she'll really think the flies showed up when we get down there. So anyway, we got to get down there and meet up with him, and so we just appreciate everybody that come and spend some time. Those of you that are watching via YouTube, that is who our sponsor is, Outreach Noah, and while you're there, you can go ahead and subscribe to that channel, hit that notification bell. You'll be notified every time a new video comes out. Share this video with all your social media platforms. Send us an email with your questions. Send it to outreachnoah@gmail.com. Until next week, see y'all later.